I am a detective, and I already am anticipating that I'm going to be start to get questions about how to add an end thread in chenille stitch, since I just taught you guys how to do this stitch that is fairly new in the bead world. How do you deal with the threads on that? So let me show you how we're going to take care of threads. So here I have a little piece of chenille stitch, and let's pretend that this thread, and obviously this thread is long, but let's pretend that it's a short thread and I need to end it off and add new thread. So the number one thing that I would suggest, and this is what I always suggest when you're working with bead, when you're working with changing out a thread, is start your new one first and then end off the old one. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to live dangerously, since I've got an end over here that I can end off to show you how to do that. I'm just going to clip this thread so I have basically a new thread to add in here. The reason you want to add your new one first is because you want to make sure that you end up coming out of the same bead your current thread is coming out of. Now in this case I'd already added the border on this piece. We're just going to pretend that that's not true and that I needed to keep going on this particular piece. So you need to make sure that you end up in the correct spot to keep going, and in some stitches it's more difficult than others to find that spot if you have already ended off your old thread. This one, it's not really too hard, but I just think it's a good rule of thumb to get in the habit of doing, just in case, because the minute you think that you've got it licked and you know exactly where that thread should come out, you're going to have a problem. Okay, maybe it was just me that had a problem once, a long time ago. Okay, maybe I'm lying. Okay, anyway, so back to the thread thing. I know that I want my thread to end up over here. So I'm just going to kind of randomly pick a spot somewhere away, because I'm going to kind of work on a diagonal up towards where this thread is coming out. So I'm just going to randomly pick a spot and pass through a couple of beads. Chenille stitch is loose enough between the beads here that I think that tying knots is an absolute perfect thing to do. You can do weaving around and omit knots. It would be fine. You would just end up wanting to go in multiple directions, changing the path as you go. You want to change directions at least 3 times before you decide that that is secure enough and start going forward. But because we've got these nice big spots here where we can tie holes. Oh, Lord, it's time for my brain to actually connect to my tongue. Where you can tie knots, I say let's go for it. So what I'm doing here is I just looped under the thread that's already connecting those beads together. I'm pulling down so that I have just a small loop right here. The bigger this loop is, the more likely you are to get in trouble when you tighten it down with it knotting prematurely, like out here, instead of right in between the beads the way you want it to. So you do want to kind of pull this down nice and small first. Then I'm going to pass through the loop, and it does not matter whether you pass back to front, front to back, doesn't matter. And then as I tighten that knot down, what I'm do is I'm tighten it nice and slow so that if it starts prematurely knotting out here, I can catch it and adjust it before I'm already in trouble. So nice and slow. I also find that doing it nice and slow seems to help it not prematurely knot out here. I don't know why, it just doesn't like speed, I guess. So then I'm going to move a couple more beads towards where I want to be. There we go. Let's tie another knot. So I'm looping under the thread that's already there, getting a nice small loop left, going through the loop, tightening down nice and slow so I can make sure it goes all right where I want it to be. And then let's take a look here. So I need to be right up there, so this is perfect. I'll travel right here through the gold, through the blue right below there. If you wanted to, you could tie another knot right here at this base. In my case, I'm just going to move forward here, and there we go. And now I have this coming out in the right location, and I'm ready to start beading again. I immediately go back and I trim the tail that I had to leave so that I could hold on to it so I wouldn't accidentally pull it out of the first knot. I trim that off immediately so that I know that that's been taken care of. Because otherwise, if you just leave those to deal with later, sometimes you're like, no, wait, do I need to weave this back in? Do I not? I don't remember. So I just take care of it right away. Now, when you're ending off a thread, you would do the exact same thing, just in the reverse direction. So in this case, this happens to be the tail thread from when I started this. So I would just pass through a couple of beads, tie a knot, pass through a couple more beads, tie a knot, pass through a couple more beads, then you can cut it off. My rule of thumb is 2 to 3 knots. In this case, this is woven in pretty well already, so I think 2 knots would be sufficient. And then I always want to move a couple of beads away from the last knot that I tied, because if you cut your thread right next to the knot, it's more likely to come undone on you, and you don't want that to happen. So that's it. Super easy. I'm going to keep you beading and keep you doing the chenille stitch. It feels like there should be like a chenille dance, don't you think? I'm doing the chenille. I don't know. I don't know what's going on with me. I'm a little tired, a little loopy. Hope this helps you, and happy beading.